Hey guys, what's up? I was rambling on Twitter, as sometimes happens to me, and I was typing out this whole thread about this new TCG exclusive card that we got revealed for Duelist Advance called Ashlan U1000 because I think it's pretty cool. And as I was typing out this thread, I had typed so much shit that I immediately thought, well, may as well just record my voice saying it because it's going to be a hell of a lot easier than typing out the rest of this shit. So here it is, Ashlan U1000. Hulk arrows link to Light Cyburst 1400, two monsters with different types and attributes. Gives your rituals that it points to piercing, so that's funny, I guess. It has an effect that if you ritual summon, you can target a face-up card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. So if you're just link climbing and you do a ritual summon while you control it, you get a free bounce, which is pretty cool when you're trying to OTK. And the most important effect is you can reveal a ritual monster in your hand and add a ritual monster with a different type and attribute from your deck to your hand. This is fucked. Obviously, it's not really that strong in any deck that's going to be very good. Like, it's not like this isn't an effect that they should print. It's an effect that's completely fine, but also it's an effect that's very powerful in the right decks. And Drytron is kind of the right deck for this effect, unfortunately. The first and immediate thought that I thought of was the Ammo Factor Pain build of this deck, which likes to run Ammo Factor as a win con, given that you can just summon it on turn one and make it so that your opponent can't attack you that next turn. And yeah, that just gives you inevitability. You put a bunch of names in your graveyard, probably a Ben 10 in your hand. You just have a shitload of follow up as a result of that and say, I have an Ammo Factor, you can't kill me. I have an IP, so I can just spin something with Dynamondo and bring back Ammo Factor if I need its Floodgate effect. And good luck, clear my grave, I guess. This build of the deck is generally, at least in my eyes, usually the way to go to play this deck, just because of how flexible it is, how much engine you can play. Like, this version that I have here is like an absolutely ridiculous amount of engine, like way too much engine. Like you're drawing like 3 names every hand, like it's insane. But what's cool about this is that if you really want via format, you can just stop out, like, say, copy a gamma, cut the beta. If you really want, you can cut foolish and maybe a cyber emergency, and you can add in just more non-engine. This deck can go up to generally about 15 non-engine before you start having to make some real cuts, I'd say. Especially with new 2 in the mix, you can really thin down on engine with that card, but obviously it cuts you off of Ammo Factor, so you don't really want to be doing that. Anyways, the use that Ashlan has in this deck is, typically when you play this deck, you get to pick between one of 2 end board pieces. You either get to choose to put on Vanity's Ruler, which is typically in the deck as a going second option. Once you Zeus wipe, you'd summon Vanity's Ruler, and typically your opponent can't out it because they will have set all of their imperm effects, and you pass back to them, they don't have anything left to out Vanity's Ruler because it would have been wiped away by Zeus, and they can't follow up and kill. Vanity's Ruler is generally pretty susceptible to turn 1 players, but after turn 1, it is going to stick on the board pretty effectively and just lock your opponent down. And the other win con is, of course, as I described earlier, Ammo Factor Pain. You summon turn 1, your opponent can't attack you, you live, you have 4 names in graveyard and the Ben 10 in your hand, they can't kill you, you can always kill them. Ashlan basically makes it so that you no longer have to use your normal summon to access Ammo Factor Pain, which is pretty huge because the way that you can assume that you're going to operate in Drytron is you're going to be able to use Alpha. Alpha is going to be your access to any one ritual. Zeta is going to be your access to any one ritual spell. You can generally access one of these 2. You draw 1, or you draw Nova or Cyber Emergency, or you use your new 2, and then you have Move Beta Dump as well. You can generally access both of them, but even if you can't, you typically find a way, right? In an emergency case, you can normal summon your Manju or whatever. And what's cool about this deck is you kind of like, traditionally, you would always have to use your normal summon to find Ammo Factor Pain because your Alpha Search is generally finding Ben 10 so that you can accumulate your value with it, because Ben 10 will then add your normal summon, which gets your next ritual monster. But what that basically leaves you with is you either have to choose to opt out of using Vanity's Ruler to access any ritual monster that's not a light fairy, or you tribute summon Vanity's Ruler and you're locked into your only end board, like your only other flex options are your light fairies, and you can't access an Ammo Factor or a Draconids or whatever. But with this Ashlan card, basically what this means is that it kind of opens the gates a little bit for you. You can either... You obviously can't access Draconids with it, which would be sweet. Being able to set up Vanity's Ruler plus Draconids and the Mu Beta Spell Trap Negate would be pretty huge, but unfortunately we can't do that. What Ashlan can do is reveal a Benton in hand at Ammo Factor. And what that means is you can pretty consistently end on Vanity's Ruler plus Ammo Factor if your opponent doesn't hand trap you, and maybe an IP Masquerader depending on how much gas your hand has, which lets you go into Dynamondo, spin something, bring back Ammo Factor. However, also, if you're, say, Ashlan gets impermed, like if your opponent has an imperm for your next Ritual Monster search, or they have some way to stop you, you're always going to be able to access Ammo Factor. You have multiple ways to it now. This is pretty huge. I do look forward to how this deck is going to play in the future as a result of it, but this is also one of only 3 builds that I have... 4 decks, 3 Drytron builds, and then one other thing that I have to show. So... Apologies. Chaos Max. This is the most toxic version of this deck. This is the one that people think of when they think of this deck. This is one that I have randomly terrorized locals with many a time. And this is one that also quite greatly benefits from Ashlan. This deck is pretty all-in. When you go turn 1, you want to access Benten, Ritual Summon it, Tribute Summon Choju over your Benten, use Choju to add Magician of Black Chaos Max and Herald of Perfection. Use Dawn of the Herald to bring out Herald of Perfection. Add back Choju to your hand. Now that you have a Negate live, you're going to Ritual Summon your Magician Black Chaos Max, link it off into Dynamondo. Snap that in your opponent's draw phase. And what does Magician of Black Chaos Max say when you revive it during your opponent's draw phase? If this card is special summoned, you contribute 1 monster. Your opponent cannot activate monster effects this turn. This is turn skip. This is toxic, this is bullshit, this is stupid, and it sucks, but it has been greatly bolstered by Ashlan, because beforehand, if your opponent merely thought the words infinite impermanence within their head, you lost the game immediately. This is no longer the case. If your opponent imperms your Choju, you can simply use Benten effect, add another copy of Benten, link off your Choju plus another name into your Ashlan, and then tribute your Benten in hand, summon it. And, after using Ashlan effect to add Magician, you can use another name to tribute Benten, add Lancia, and then special summon your Magician, go into Dynamondo, and you just have Dynamondo plus Lancia. Protects you from a cold buy, protects you from a random stray Bestial that your opponent might have for some reason, and generally that helps. But obviously, I don't like talking about this version of the deck, not since Baron got banned. This deck was way cooler when Baron was around because it had players going second, but nowadays it's just win the die, roll or die. But Ashlan does make it a little bit less die, you know? Last build is Perfection, which can now... you're going to notice 2 things about this version of the deck. And the first one is that it is bad. And the second one is that it's very light on engine. The reason it's very light on engine is because the endboard piece on this deck is Herald of Perfection. And the only thing that you need to access Herald of Perfection is Choju. Which means... 1 name plus Benten is still combo in this version of the deck. Ever since we lost Beatrice, 1 name plus Benten has not been combo. Beforehand, it generally was, but now it's a bit dicey. This deck also, sometimes you can play Nova. It's a bit better. Like, you can play Nu 2 to summon off of Nova, for the 1 card, which is a little bit better now with Ashlan. But that's why this deck is so light on engine. I'm just going to address that. That's why I've cut 1 copy of Cyber Emergency and there's no Foolish Burial in the main. This is also addressed in the side. In the side of this deck, you generally want to side an amount of engine, i.e. generally beta plus a Foolish, but Cyber Emergency plays into draw the hardest out of everything, plus it's the worst to draw in multiples. We're on 2 Delta, 3 of the best names, 1 of the worst of the good names, and just as little engine as possible other than that. The reason why Ashlan is useful in this deck is because when players are running Droplet, which does happen in a lot of metagames, and is really, really effective against this version of the deck, generally the backup plan against Droplet is you add Orange Light plus Ava, which is quite effective, believe me, but also opponents will draw a Cold Buy at the grave a lot of the time, and I don't like that fact. So rather than allowing that Droplet or that Cold Buy to resolve, which are the 2 biggest checks to this deck, we're playing Magic Ease. Previously, this is just like a janky way to extend your end board at the expense of 2 deck slots, and you can't access it ever, but excuse me. Ashlan lets you reveal a Ben 10 in your hand, add Baitos Buster, which is a machine ritual with 2000 attack, who on summon adds a Magic Key card. Magic Key unlocking is a counter trap. Spell trap negate. You can also declare an attribute, and all your opponent's monsters become that attribute, which I'm not 100% sure what that could be applicable against right now, but you know, it's there. Frankly, I don't even think that Baitos Buster is the way to go in this deck. I think that you just need to cut these cards, add some more non-engine, because if you didn't notice, we've got 3 Fuwa, 3 Droll, and then 3 Orange Light. At least the other decks rather play Perulia. Not that I own them, but like, at least they're good. Okay, so the other thing that I think is important in this version of the deck is Magnum and Animal Factor inside, but that's just rambling. The reason why Ashlan helps this deck is because it helps you go first with Baitos Buster and unlocking, but obviously that's a bit of a moot point to a certain extent. The fact is, I do think this is quite strong. I do think that Ashlan does help, and I do think that Baitos Buster does notably fix an important issue that this deck had, because it also lets you turn on Mu Beta's negate. But also the fact is, it's 2 negates on top of Herald of Perfection, which already has more than enough negates. This is just another way that I can show off Ashlan being quite useful, and it kind of is in this version. I think that it's most useful in the Ammo Factor version, but I also think that Ammo Factor is the best way to play this deck naturally, because it's just the most flexible. Now, there's one more deck. It's not a Drytron list, but it is using Ashlan pretty cool. It's very me. This is Voiceless Voice Mitsurugi. This deck, don't mind the extra, it's kind of thrown together because quite frankly I couldn't think of very much shit to put in here. But yeah, this deck just gets to play both of these engines now kind of for free. Or it turns your Voiceless Voice engine into also your Mitsurugi engine, which might be kind of unnecessary, but it does add a bridge and it's enough for me to make an excuse that I want to play these cards together. So you'll start with your low, you'll go into your Skull Guardian, and then generally, if you can find enough bodies, which if you go via Diviner and get Trias out, you generally will be able to get enough bodies on board to help you access Ashlan from your extra, reveal Skull Guardian or Cerevis more realistically, and you can add Habakiri. That's it. That's all I wanted to show. This probably sucks. But look, I have been half brain dead with COVID for the last day, just building decks with Ashlan U1000, and they've all sucked, but these are the best 4 that I've come up with, and I just wanted to share them, and all my thoughts were a bit too much for twitter.com. So this isn't a video, it's going to go on YouTube, probably unlisted, and if you're watching it, thanks for watching me talk for 13 minutes. Okay, bye.